Gateway Podcast.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the 35th episode of the Gateway Podcast. It has been a while, but I am back at it again. So for those that were wondering why it's been roughly a month since I've posted the last one, well, it used to be a weekly thing that I started back in January, where I would post one podcast per week for a whole year, meaning 52 podcasts in total. But ever since I've kind of hit that final 20, I've decided to really take my time with it and really get the 20 people that I just had to talk to in my StarCraft life. So I decided to start taking my time with it and just reach up to that 52 mark gradually. So for those who don't know, the Gateway Podcast is a one-on-one podcast where we get to learn more about the members of the StarCraft community. This podcast, however, is going to be pretty much a bit different from every single other podcast that I've done so far, because our guest today already did a super entertaining interview with nice_username about 2 years ago talking about his life with StarCraft. So what I've done is that I've tailored a bunch of kind of deeper questions that build upon that interview. I would highly recommend you check out that series of interviews. You can find them on YouTube at nice_username, space the action, not the word. But let's be real, it'll always be nice_username. That's very important. As always, I'm your host, Necro, and today I have a Canadian streamer that I followed for a very long time. I think since like 2015 or 2016. He's also the second streamer ever where I was like, yeah, I'm gonna drop a sub on this guy. It is UpATreeZelda. How's it going, dude?
It's going pretty good, dude. Was it really been 2 years since Joey?
Dude, it's been 2 years, yeah.
Oh, no.
That's crazy.
I feel like, no, it's been 1 year. 2020 is a write-off. We'll just pretend like
it was in May of 2018. So it's been over 2 years,
man.
actually.
That was like right after Achievement Hunt, right?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think
right after the anniversary event and right after.
Yeah, that was
maybe right
SC20. No, SC20 was before because you talked about it on that.
Okay.
On that show. Yeah. We might touch on that a little bit later as well. But anyway, I went to the patisserie next door just to grab myself a very large latte, so it would be appropriate for this podcast.
Nice.
I was wondering because the only habit I know you have with coffee is that you drink it black. Is there any other thing with coffee? Like, do you drink it all day? Do you drink it once a day? Do you have any special roasts?
I had to chill, actually. I was drinking so much coffee, I was tired like all the time because caffeine has an inverse effect if you have too much of it.
Yeah.
But then like one day I had like just a cup of coffee, and the headache I got from caffeine withdrawal was insane, and so I just had to cut it back to like one. But I used to drink coffee like around the clock. It was. Yeah. I remember, like, I still vividly remember this. Like, I think I realized I had a problem. So we were studying for this math like final, and this prof was a jerk. Like, we all knew he was going to destroy us. Okay, and the average going into that was like 50 or 40%,
which is not a passing grade.
No, it's not a passing grade, and it's not like anyone in that room was stupid. Okay, like there were some people that were probably like, obviously there's a bell curve, but if the center of your curve is 40%, like you're doing something pretty wrong. So I remember studying this thing. I slept in the library for 3 days, and there was a pyramid of coffee cups, like, and it like went over because they used to have the little cubbies where like it's like one desk, but it's surrounded by like wooden walls and there's a little shelf on top. And I just built this big pyramid of coffee cups, and I wanted to take a picture when it was done, but the cleaning lady came and stole all my cups. Like they were all rinsed and stuff. Like I wasn't gonna just like leave half full coffee cups, but I looked at that though before she did that. And I was like, man, I have a problem. Like these are all like extra large coffees from Tim Hortons because it was literally attached to a Tim Hortons.
I don't even know how you drink that much too, because you just have to go to the bathroom all the time if you just nonstop drink coffee.
Oh, back then, I mean, I would have been like 21. I was a machine.
Oh yeah,
right? Yeah, I was just drinking. It was an unhealthy amount of coffee. Like it's not something that I would ever recommend anybody do, but it was what I was doing at the time.
I remember my English teacher from secondary school. He said at some point, like he had to drink so much coffee, it was just too much coffee to just physically drink. So what he would start doing is just eating the coffee beans directly, and like it was disgusting, but it kept him awake. That sounds like a bad time.
That is a level that I will have never achieved. That's insane.
You're a true coffee fan when you eat the beans directly.
Yeah, when you need it that bad, I think that's when you look in the mirror and you go, we need to change something. Where's rehab at?
Rehab for coffee.
That's insanity.
Yeah. So right now it's about 10:30 a.m. But this is kind of new because when I first known about you, you've been a nighttime streamer for a very very
Right.
long time. Like how long
Yeah.
did you actually live that nightlife?
Uh, that's a tough question. 2018, 2018. No, so 2018 would have been when I stopped, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because was it post? No, I got married in 2019. I feel like it was before that. By it was like a month before Gym Pass, which was 2019. Okay, so yeah, I did that from 2017, like 2016 and a half to like 2017,
Yeah.
all the way up to 2019.
That's like 3 to 4 years there. That's basically like three
Yeah,
years. Yeah. Yeah, it's crazy.
it
When made you
was
decide to actually go nighttime anyway?
it was just well, see, the thing is that I guess I okay. So when you're a streamer, you have to make a decision like when because consistency is king. So you got to make a
Mm-hmm.
decision like when am I going to be streaming? Like when will people be able to find me? So when I was in undergrad, no, sorry, when I was in grad school, that wasn't the determining factor. I wasn't a full-time streamer. So the time that I streamed was like 10 to 12 or like 9 to 12
Mm-hmm.
because that was when I could. Like I was done the work for the day or whatever, and then 3 days a week or 4 days a week I would be streaming. That was like 2015. So when I became a full time streamer, I had to make a choice. Did I stream earlier, like 6 to 12, and then never see anybody, or did I stream later from like 9 to 2 or from like 10 to 4 or whatever? So I chose later because I realized there was nobody streaming StarCraft 2 at that time as well. And it seemed like a really good fit. And then it evolved. Like, I doubled down on it harder over time. Like, I would start streaming at like 11 and then finish streaming at like 6 a.m.
Yeah, that's just
And then
straight
I
up the
would,
night shift.
yeah, straight up the night shift because I was like, okay, so I can actually spend all my free time with my wife if I sleep when she works and I work when she sleeps. This is genius.
Hmm.
But like the side effect of this is that now all of humanity is like asleep when you're working. Like and they're
True.
sleeping when like and they're like sleeping when you're getting up or sorry, they're like active and they're working um when you're sleeping. So you have this problem where like if you want to go to the mall and buy something, it's closed.
Mm. Yep.
You want to do anything, it's closed. Like you want to see people, oh well, like it's not gonna happen. Weekends were terrible, man. Like I
Mm-hmm.
remember falling asleep. Like people would be telling stories and stuff. Like we got a bunch of friends together, and I'd be falling asleep in the corner, cause like I'm up like 5-6 hours before I'm supposed to. Like I've slept like an hour, maybe two. It was a rough time. Like it grew the stream a ton,
Mm-hmm.
but it was rough. It was rough.
Yeah, I actually lived. Well, this actually happened during quarantine, but I think for about 3 months, I started living pretty much nighttime as well. And one of the things that
Mm.
messed me up the most was the fact that, like, when you live daytime, you wake up, you go through the day, sun goes down, you go to sleep, and then you wake up the next day. But when you live nighttime, you wake up, you're one day, halfway through your day, you change the date. Like
Oh
halfway
yeah.
through, and then you're the next day, and then you go to sleep, and then you wake up, but you're still the day before, and it's like I
That's something
literally
you
could
really
not
don't think
tell.
about, yeah.
Yeah, I just could not tell what date we were at any point in time. I was so confused. But was there any like pros that you enjoyed about living at night, or was it
Oh
just for
yeah.
streaming?
Oh my god. Cuz like people suck.
Mm.
Straight up. Like have you been to the gym at 3 in the morning, man?
You have gyms
There's
open at 3 in the morning?
yeah,
That's funny though.
there's a gym around here. It was open at 3 in the morning. It was empty. It was a gym that would
Yeah.
fit 200 people at a time
Mm-hmm.
and it was me.
Mm-hmm.
Like I had the whole place to myself. Like you could do whatever you wanted. Like there was no one around. And that was like it's something I kind of enjoy.
Mm-hmm.
Is like people not being in my way when I want to do stuff. But obviously it has its inconveniences. I like the people the night shift people are my kind of people. They're the degenerates. Like I
Yeah,
feel like
true,
I
true,
was,
true. Yeah.
especially at the time, like I was definitely a degenerate type person. Like, and I liked those people at that time slot as well.
Hmm.
And it was one of the harder decisions to make to give that up, um, especially because of that. Like, I didn't really want to give up the people that I'd come to know at that time. You become very attached, actually.
Uh, Sometimes when I think about like that question of what superpower would you have, sometimes I actually do think about what if I never need to sleep? I can just experience everything all the time nonstop. That would just be the dream, honestly. Is Do you enjoy like what do you enjoy about maybe during the daytime that you can't at nighttime? Is it just stuff being open or?
It's well, I mean, you're on the same you're on the same wavelength as everyone around you, right?
Yeah.
Like, and that there's something powerful about that, even though it's just a psychological thing. You
Hmm.
know, like people are eating dinner when you're eating dinner. People are having coffee when you're having coffee.
Yeah.
You know, people are finished their work when you're done your work. Like it's relatable and things sync up. It's really about like how long can you sustain being alone, pretty much. Like
Yeah.
you have your stream where you have people, but like they're not like with you. They're not like they're on like at home with you. So how long can you really maintain being the only one that you talk to?
Yeah. I
Like
guess one of the pros of like, being a nighttime. Well, you got to be someone that can just live, by yourself. I guess a little bit more of solitude, but like when you live at nighttime, it's just really peaceful. But sometimes peaceful for people is just too much over time. It just becomes loneliness instead of peacefulness.
yeah,
I think there's
one
a
thing I should
yeah.
really add, is that I'm a workaholic. So like, it like people have to pull me away from doing things. So that late night, like even when I was like done streaming, I could still work on other things too because no one was awake yet. So like I like that about it. That was a big draw for me because I was putting in a lot of time, like building overlay, like
Mhm.
networking or like doing whatever content planning stuff or like studying StarCraft. Like I could do all those things as well, and then no one would get in my way doing them.
Mhm.
That was a big part of it. Like you can't. That is something I struggle with now because my time is no like I can no longer monopolize it in the same way
Mhm.
for that reason.
Yeah, it's like when you wake up and you live kind of at night, it's very easy to like sit down and just do stuff like just like working overlays, streaming and stuff like that. But like when you wake up during the day, because you're on the same wavelength as everybody else, it's like, well, now you gotta run errands, you've gotta like cook, you gotta like
Yeah.
you gotta do stuff during the daytime. And there it might be like an effect of like just the general light too. Like when you wake up, like the light like changes over the day, so you actually do get that sense of time. Whereas at night, it's like there's no difference between 10 p.m. and 4 a.m. It's like, yeah, it just feels like you can just focus on one thing really hard and just not be bothered by anything. So that's pretty
Mm.
cool. Um, you lightly touched upon like your gaming experience growing up. I believe you said you played Age of Empires 2 very casually with your dad back then. What was the kind of gaming dynamic in your family? Did you play video games with your siblings, or like what did you do? As it basically.
Well, I was like an only child for like 9 years,
Mhm.
and so my dad kind of stopped. Like he kind of grew out of, he kind of grew out of video games. Like in because my dad was a young guy when they had me, so then he sort of transitioned into being a responsible human, and so he like stopped playing. He stopped playing games. Somewhere after like Ocarina of Time, like I don't remember him playing shit anymore. Like we didn't do anything in that regard. So then I basically just played whatever was, whatever I could get my hands on.
Mhm.
Um so like I vividly remember like Super Mario Sunshine, like Wind Waker. I was more a Nintendo like I was more of a Nintendo guy. I think I was a Nintendo guy for a very long time. And now looking back on it, it reflects the way that Blizzard made games too. Like the quality was so high with Nintendo games and the gameplay itself. Like if you look at its Microsoft counterparts, like if you look at Xbox games, like with the exception of like Halo the average quality of an Xbox game was way lower than that of a Nintendo made game. In fact, it still holds true.
Yeah. I feel like
And
it's
you
just
know this because they've been so reluctant to sell out. Like Nintendo has resisted DLC and stuff as harder than any other company has in microtransactions and stuff because they don't want to get in the way of the gameplay experience.
Yeah, I feel like they just put a lot of quality into a very few franchises, Nintendo and Blizzard, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, how were your did you have any like restrictions playing video games growing up? Like, did you play too much? Was it just a casual thing on the side, or?
I don't think I didn't have any restrictions on playing games really. Like we didn't have TV, but like cause my parents were just on that kick, and honestly, I kind of appreciate it because I feel like the amount that I hate ads now, I can only imagine how much more I would have hated them if I'd had to live through commercials.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I actually was a pretty active kid. Like we played hockey outside on the street like all summer and whatnot. Like it wasn't like it was my parents had a hard time kicking me out, and online games weren't really a thing. Like they were, but not that we had the availability to play. Like I wasn't playing StarCraft 2 or StarCraft or anything online really. Um, we were playing like local area network stuff. We were playing Halo. Like we bring like two Xboxes together when that was a thing. We play like 8 people. We'd play whatever with the group of friends would play. Like we weren't. Yeah, it wasn't like now where you get people just like in their room like playing alone for like hours on end, and not in the responsible way because like I'm sure there are tons of esports nerds like ready to like kill me for saying something like that, but like there's a big difference between the degenerate like don't talk to me mom, like I'm running around in circles in this video game, and like hey I'm training for like X tournament. Like this big
this is not a thing yet.
There's a big difference between the two things, like so yeah, like we were playing just local stuff, and so that never was a problem. We never really had to. I don't think I got grounded like once or twice, and I got grounded a lot actually, but I got grounded
degenerate
like
life
from playing once or twice, but not too much. No.
Yeah, I remember sneaking out with my brother at like 11, and we would just play Gran Turismo on the PlayStation until 2 a.m. and then until our parents busted us. Like that's basically what happened. So how old are you when the Zelda kind of series came into your life, and like was it an instant kind of love at first sight relationship, or?
That's a tough question. I think I remember playing Link to the Past like really early, but I'd never played. Actually, I remember playing the original like way back. I have like a memory in there. I don't even remember who I was with, but I remember looking for that title again, and that led me to playing Zelda 2, which was awful. And then I didn't touch it for like I didn't even then Ocarina of Time like way later down the line, and then I didn't even beat it the first time. And then I went back like my dad did because he got like super addicted to it and then beat it. And then I went back to it on my own time later. I would say I became like I really fell in love with the series in Wind Waker. Like
oh yeah.
I don't think there was anything. Oh, Majora's Mask, but I didn't finish that either. Like, it's so weird how I think Majora's Mask was too complicated for me at the time because, I wasn't like looking at any guides or anything. I don't think I ever finished that game. I made it maybe halfway through. I was a young kid, so I just didn't work at it. But Wind Waker, that's not what happened. Wind Waker, I really loved that game and I finished it. I'm trying to think of, and then Twilight Princess when it came out on the Wii, because there was such a huge rush with that game. I think that's where I really fell in love with the series. Like because you had to get the Wii as well. I remember my parents like pulled the stunt where like they said that they couldn't get their hands on one, but they waited outside of the Zellers for like 4 hours and got one. And then I played that game basically start to finish without moving. Like, oh, it was so good. Yeah. Skyward Sword as well, same thing. Like I just have a lot of fun memories of it.
Yeah. You mentioned like you actually started writing about Zelda in your master's thesis. Now you're in like software engineering thing.
Right?
Yeah. Like how did that even come about? How did you like? How were you writing a thesis and go like this is a Zelda spot?
Because they're the champions, man. Like the way that so the idea behind I'll try and do this in a way like I haven't read my thesis in ages. I think I have PTSD, honestly, because I just don't ever want to edit. Like not like I don't want to like editing that thing. Like if you've ever edited something you've written that is 100 pages long, was like reading your own filth for just like for like a month and a half. Like I just never wanted to see it ever again. So anyway, that's tangential, okay? So I'll try to remember, but if I wondering like why I can't remember my own work that I spent that long on, that's why. So basically, they mastered the design practice of acquire experience and then like deliver mastery kind of deal. So what you'll do is you'll get like the hook shot, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then so they actually could guarantee like by the time that you left the dungeon that you actually 100% understood how to use the hook shot. Because if you didn't, you couldn't leave. So all of the enemies from that point forward could incorporate that element in. So like every time, that's why Zelda never gets stale to the end. Because like they give you a brand new skill to learn, and you've never seen it before, unless maybe you played another Zelda title. Back then, that wouldn't have been possible. So you acquire this thing you've never seen before, you learn how to master it, and then now like they can introduce all this complexity with other tasks that you already knew how to do. And then by the time you finish, like you've mastered, you beat the boss usually incorporates beating, like using that thing that you mastered. Now you leave and you go to another dungeon and you start the process all over. So like you never ever feel like you've become overpowered in how good you are at using a specific thing. Like there's always more for you to do, and they mastered that. Like they were the first to implement it in a video game in the OG Zelda, and then they really perfected the notion in A Link to the Past. Like if you go through A Link to the Past, the way that they force you to use the things that you get and the diversity of items that you get was unheard of prior to that in the way that they executed it. And it's all about execution. Like you can do something like that and have it be crap, but they killed it. And they've consistently done that in every single game that they've made, and arguably the only one that they didn't was Breath of the Wild, because you had all the abilities from the start.
Yeah, it's a little bit different for sure.
Yeah,
that game is just an
experience.
entire different series, almost, it feels.
But notice that in Breath of the Wild, the number one complaint was no dungeons, because it lacked that depth. Like there was a lot of depth to the game, but the skill, there's no depth.
Yeah, there's like just 4 dungeons. Well, dungeons, quote unquote. It's the
they're not
animals,
even
right?
dungeons.
Yeah,
they're
just
not. They're
big
crap.
robots,
yeah.
basically.
If you compare them to any other game in the franchise, like even thematically, like if you walk into one of the dungeons in Breath of the Wild, you're like, oh, so this looks exactly like the other one. Like fantastic. So now I'm just gonna walk through it and do the things I got to do. It's not. It has no style. Like it had no. The enemies aren't even different per place. The bosses are like the same variation of boss with like different abilities. Like it's just so ridiculous. I couldn't. And it actually, in my defense, like to know that I'm correct, they actually admitted they put those dungeons in because they were afraid of the backlash.
Oh shit!
If there were no dungeons.
Yeah.
So like they weren't going to do them. Breath of the Wild was going to be literally the trials and the in Ganon. That was it. They spent all that time world building, and then they were like, "Shit, man, maybe we should have some dungeons, dude."
Maybe they're transitioning a bit too hard there. Like, do you think in the Breath of the Wild 2 there's still gonna be dungeons, or they might actually cut it out completely?
Oh no, that's what they'll do. See, that's the thing about building a world like that. Like the world they built is amazing, but that actually probably took them that length of time. Right? So like, how can you fault them? Like the game is a perfect open world adventure game. Like look at the world, look at the space. It's amazing. So it's of no surprise to me that when they started doing DLC for it, they were like, "Shit, man, we're putting DLC in literally every corner of this map. Like it's a game. Like we're basically building like Zelda 2." And so that's what happened. They were like, "Okay, so we're just gonna make Zelda 2, because were basically just the scope that we can place in this world already. It's like 7 times bigger or some crazy shit than any Zelda game they've ever done, like in space. You can fit the OG map in the first section.
Oh,
Like
okay.
it's a big world, and they fleshed it out like crazy. There's so much to do. So I'm not like I shit on the dungeons, but it's just a major complaint because you it's always about setting up expectations, right? This happens in streaming.
Mm-hmm.
You set the expectation for your game to have this incredibly deep like skill curve and like things to learn and new items to acquire and stuff, and then you subvert expectations. And people don't like that. Even if what you give them is new, they don't like the fact that they don't have what they always had.
Yeah, true. It's like there was an analogy that I think the streamer like Destiny made at some point. It's like if you go to McDonald's and you expect a cheeseburger, it's gonna taste delicious. But if you go to a steakhouse and you get a cheeseburger, you're gonna be really fucking mad, even though it's the same cheeseburger that you liked at the other place because of that's what you were expecting basically.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
The
It was more that it was that analogy is more that allegory. That thing that he's talking about is actually that if McDonald's delivers a substandard cheeseburger, even for them, you're not mad because you expect McDonald's to be substandard. And if you go to a high-end steakhouse and order a cheeseburger, you expect it to be worth every penny. And if it isn't, then you're upset. Even though, technically speaking, that cheeseburger that the steakhouse gave you is like infinitely better than anything McDonald's could ever produce. Like, just about what they have on hand. Because of the quality associated with the brand comes an expectation of the job done as well as the product, right?
Yeah.
As well as the thing. So it was more that McDonald's could just get away with being bad, both in product and in actual like skill in cooking. If I recall his analogy, and that is true. Like I thought about it internally when he said that. I'm never mad when I go to a fast food joint and the food is shit. Never.
Yeah, exactly.
Never. I've never been mad in my life. I've never been like, man, these fries are garbage. Because, like, you paid like $3 for them. Like, chill. Yeah. It's not a big deal.
True, yeah. When you talked about, like, how satisfying it is to, like, in the Zelda games, about, like, how you get a hook shot and then you learn how to use it and then just kind of, like, through practical uses, I feel like that's what makes learning exciting. And like, could you imagine if the school system would be like, here's a thing I'm going to teach you, and now immediately here's all the shit you can actually do in real life with it. Like, school would be so insanely like exciting. If it could somehow pull off like the same like learning system that kind of Zelda presents you with. I feel
scholastics is like brutal, especially academia in general has failed on this bar. Like, on average, a lot of I had a very good physics teacher who deviated from the plans or whatever to very constantly demonstrate a physics principle and then show what it actually looks like physically. I had an incredible average in that class, and it's not because I'm a genius, but it's because if you give somebody a tool, like, they need to see what it does in order to understand how to use it. Academia currently hands people like a toolbox like the size of a house and then says build me a house like 8 years later. Like, they just put tool after tool after tool after tool in the box, but like they don't give you a lot of, like, they give you practice problems, sure, but they don't give you a lot of real world, like, this is what this actually looks like. Look, this is what this does kind of deal. And in that way, you're right. Some teachers make a point to differ from that, but it's on the whole, that was exactly my experience.
Yeah. I mean, it's tough to make everything practical in real life because it's so generalized that there are things that you will legit never use ever. So it's kind of hard to just make everything into a practical exercise in a way.
I think that that's like true, but not true. I think that I've heard that rhetoric like a million times, and it's like always false for somebody. Like, like, for example, when we were doing like Fourier transforms, I was like, who the fuck would ever use this? And then like the next year, like, some people were working on, like, I think they were in like some mechanical engineer, like mechanical and software or something like that, or mechatronics or whatever, and they were like, yeah, so we're like basically our entire class is like implementing Fourier transforms.
Oh, shit.
And I was like, all right, so really it's about where you end up in life. Like, you know, I think that some of these tools, like you need to have an idea of them early so that you're good at using them when you need to like understand them in more depth like later on. But without the examples, I think it's hard. Like if you don't know where you're going, like it's tough to respect a thing. Like if I hand you a sword, right, as like a kid, and I'm like, you're gonna need this, and then I walk away, and then 30 years later, a samurai comes to kill you, like you're gonna be like, well, I mean, for 30 years I did nothing. Like they just sat there. Like what do you want?
Yeah.
It doesn't make any sense. Like it doesn't help you.
Yeah, just throw that samurai in front of the kid immediately, just so he
Yeah,
can learn.
well, no, like
No, I'm
yeah, I mean
kidding.
that's what you do. You train, right? You
Yeah,
train. You give a wooden sword, and then like you have exercises, and then you spar, and then 30 years later the samurai dies. Like that's how the movie goes. It's not like here, man, you'll be fine. Don't worry.
I mean,
Just hold on to this.
That's literally Wind Waker, dude. At the beginning.
Yeah.
I'm curious because just to go back to Zelda. So you started like streaming with speedrunning, or is it just like playing through all the games?
Yeah.
No,
it's do you want, okay, continue. I want to see where you're going.
Okay. So basically, I was just thinking like ever since, because speedrunning has always been like a kind of a fascinating thing to me, because I feel like speedrunning just resulted out of people liking a game so much. It's like, well, how can I be good at this game? I guess if I can do it faster in a way. But I wonder if like your perspective on how you appreciate the series became different ever since you started speedrunning it, because before then you kind of saw the series through a lens of like, fun and immersion stuff, but when you start speedrunning the games, I feel like you start seeing it through more of a technical lens on like every level is like technically like this, and it's all about like all these tricks. It's like do you think your appreciation of the series kind of changed ever since you started actually speedrunning them?
I would say so. I started speedrunning strictly because we were doing the charity marathon, and we finished like 4 games in 2 days or 3 days, and I was like, holy shit, we really need to be able to play these games faster, because otherwise like this marathon just can't happen. Like it's just not gonna happen. Like if it takes us 13 hours to finish Ocarina of Time, like there's no hope for us. So I think it was something like that, like 13 or 16 hours or some crazy shit like that.
So it was out of necessity. You had to start getting fast.
100%. But what I learned from speedrunning, first of all, like I really think speedrunning is the idea that people seek competition even if there is none. Like
100%. Yeah.
You take a game that is like Zelda where there's no competition, and you're like, okay, so how can I beat my friend? Like it has nothing to do with it. I think it stems from a very raw place where in the human psyche where you just want to be better than at something, which is great. Like I think competition is amazing, and so I really though came to appreciate how good the devs for that game really were. Like people sunk that amount of time into the game, and it took them so long to break it. Like it took them so long to break Ocarina of Time. And the mechanics of that game were super deep for the time. Like the amount of shit you could do, I gained a serious appreciation for how to control. Like I feel like there's something missing in modern games that game had, where like you couldn't enjoy being good at like the first playthrough because you were actually that shit at being Link. Like going back on it now, like I'm just so much more efficient. I haven't played in a long time, but you're just so much more efficient at dispatching enemies and stuff than you were, and there's something about that. Whereas now, like things, I guess games have sort of come back to that, because if you don't have a mastery, like no one wants to play your game, no matter what you like coat of paint you put on it. And so you're seeing I mean Dark Souls and Demon Souls and the other one with the Sekiro, and then there's the Bloodborne. Those are all signs that people want depth more than they want breadth, I guess. Like they want depth to combat. They want difficulty. These are things that you can't. They go about it in a different way. Ocarina of Time was difficult because they didn't have the technology to make Link super smooth like it was in Wind Waker, right? But there's still a level of satisfaction that you could get by being good at controlling the character.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, I came to really appreciate that game. It didn't change my love of the series at all, but I think that is actually in large part due to the fact that it's the only game I ever tried to speedrun.
Yeah, so
Like
the rest just kind of stay, the rest of the games kind of keep their mystique in a way.
I learned to. Well, I also love the lore. Like Zelda
Mhm.
just goes so deep. You know what I mean? Like there's so much going on, so many series, and the devs are. I think they do it on purpose at this point. Like they try and keep the story just obscure enough. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Like that that people can't figure out what's actually canon and what's not.
One of your partners in crime with all these Zelda marathons is Juggernaut Jason. Um,
Yeah.
would you consider like I feel like you and Jason are kind of like this iconic duo at this point. Would you consider like I guess Jason to be like one of your like best friends in the StarCraft scene or Zelda or whatever? Because I think you guys both live in Toronto, right?
I die for that kid.
Yeah.
Easy.
What is
Yeah.
all Kappa prides aside, what is it that you like the best about Jason, like as a friend, I guess?
He's just a good friend. Like you don't get many of them. Like that's it. Like there's a quality to having a good friend that you can't really put like there's nothing. It's like when someone asks you like what do you love about me? Like you're just like, well, I mean, that's
True.
a loaded question.
That is a killing question.
It's like yeah. Like
Yeah.
really, I just yeah. There's just something about a good friend that you can't.
Describe.
It's not really something you can describe.
Yeah. How long
It
have you
doesn't
known
really
him for,
make sense.
actually?
Uh, I think that the jury's up on that one. There's like it was after the base trade event, I think. No, it might have been the base trade event. Whenever that happened, I don't remember now. Maybe 2015, I think.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So
But like we were definitely becoming friends more in 2016.
yeah. So he just happened to be like a big Zelda fan as well, and then you just started playing together and just like running through those games together.
Yeah, like it was definitely a StarCraft. Like it was a friendship born of StarCraft first, and then he just is a Zelda fan as well.
Mhm.
I like Jason's not. He's a social guy, but like he doesn't right now. He doesn't really like to leave his house.
I
I
mean, nobody's
guess
even allowed to. But,
no one is allowed to. But like, I mean, even before this, it was
Mm.
like a difficult. It was a difficult thing to do. But I saw like dragged him. I think he tried to. He tried to get me to say that he was gonna video in for the first one, and I was like, "What are you fucking doing?
Get your ass over here, dude.
Get your ass over here. You're not that far away." But yeah. So yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
Yeah, so obviously, like Zelda has been a pretty huge part of your life and your brand, really. And StarCraft 2 is literally your job. So why is it that I've heard that your favorite game is this PlayStation 1 game called Grandia? What is that about?
Oh, that's pure nostalgia.
Oh, okay.
Because I played that, yeah, but that was like, what's so funny about Grandia is that like, I really don't like to play RPGs anymore.
Mm.
I don't like the grind. I don't like. I just don't. I'm not a fan of RPGs. Period. I just haven't been. I don't know if it's. I think StarCraft 2 ruined video games for me. Actually.
Same, 100%.
The pace is so high and it's like so high octane that like I feel like I'm falling asleep playing like anything else. But Grandia has like a storyline and a nostalgia to me that it just it's I played it so young I don't remember, and then when I went back to finish it when I got it again because we rented it. I had like chicken pox and we rented it and I got like a quarter of the way through the game, and then it was purchased for me later on in life, and I played the living bejesus. I think I played that game like 4 or 5 times, and this is as a kid when the playthroughs were like 60 hours.
Yeah.
And it was hard to log 60 hours in a video game as a kid.
Yeah.
Like there was so much shit to do.
But we would do it.
I played. Oh, for sure.
100%.
I loved that game.
Yeah.
I loved it.
Yeah.
So it is absolutely one of my favorite games of all time.
Yeah. I mean, it's like one of the first games that made you fall in love with video games in general, I assume.
Probably.
Like, yeah.
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 I love the story. Like it's just such a classic trope. Like now that I'm like older, it's such a classic trope, but they did it so well, and that like like your character's like an adventurer. Like, come on, there's nothing more stereotypical than being an adventurer for the sake of being an adventurer. There's nothing more like raw than that. And then the whole trip that you go on from there is like it's interesting. Like I liked everything about it. I still do. I'm actually in the middle of a playthrough again because they remastered it.
Yeah,
I'm taking my time.
I saw Misery trying to speedrun it or something.
Yeah, he's gonna do like a 14-hour speed run.
Yeah,
or some
because
crazy
he was
shit
on
like that.
he was on my podcast I think 10 episodes ago, and he told
saw
me
that.
Grandia was his was his favorite game, and then he's like, oh, it's Sal's favorite game too. I was like, what? How?
Yeah.
It's like he has
Yeah.
Zelda and StarCraft in his life, so I just wanted to know what to deal with that.
But
was,
it's not. Yeah, when it's it's my favorite game. Like, but it's definitely not something I could play all the time, or something that I even really want to play, like anymore.
Mhm.
Like it's just one of those things that I kind of grew out of it in a sense. Not that I don't think it's still a good game. I grew out of being able to play the game anymore. Like I might like watch Misery play it or play it like every once in a while for myself. Like, but it's not something I would ever do on stream. It's not
Oh
something
yeah.
that I take great joy in playing. I enjoy reliving the moments,
Mhm.
like, but it's actually kind of like the gameplay moments are bridging me towards the plot. Like it's got, yeah, it's not what
Yeah.
it was when I was a kid. That's
Oh,
for
for sure,
sure.
for sure. I mean, the best part about that game is just the memories you have with it, not necessarily like playing
Correct.
it
Yeah,
today,
yeah.
like like 20 some
Definitely.
years later, for sure. Um,
Yeah.
yeah. So we kind of also touched upon like how you did stuff outside of video games as well. Now we know. I mean, hopefully we can get into this. I don't know if you're like comfortable with it at all, but I want to talk about like martial arts real quick, because you are you're like a black belt in kung fu, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. When did you start getting into martial arts? Was it
When I was in
yeah?
undergrad, yeah, it was like the
Oh, undergrad
first
as
thing
well.
I did.
So that was like
Yeah.
much later. You didn't start at like 10 or something.
No, no.
Okay.
No, yeah. There was like karate classes when I was a kid or whatever.
Hmm.
Honestly, if I like, I'm actually super lucky because like the guy who taught us was like a old school martial artist, but like he really believed in sparring a lot, like a lot,
Hmm.
because he came from a club that like went like downhill and just like was trying to sell belts essentially. So
Yeah.
like they started out as a very serious club, and then he just saw that. So he like lived like this very minimalistic life, and then he just lived very like low to the ground kind of deal, and just taught martial arts.
Hmm.
And we sparred a fuck ton. We sparred so like a lot, so much that I don't even know if it's like actually beneficial, but that let like later on I would come to realize that like any club that doesn't do that is actually like wasting your time,
Hmm.
because again it's like giving people all the tools in the world but not actually ever letting them like use them. So what's the point?
Yeah. It's like that Zelda analogy
Yeah.
again. It's like you
If
learn
I
this,
if I had
actually
to
use
go
it.
if I had to go back though, and I this is a recommendation for anyone who ever like listens to this, like I would have done Muay Thai and Brazilian Jiu
Oh
Jitsu
yeah, it was
because
actually one of my follow-up questions. It was like, if you could instantly like transfer all the time you spent in
yeah.
kung fu into like another martial art, like what would you
No, no,
do?
no, no. Like the sparring we do is basically just like kickboxing. Like if you ever watch kickboxer spar, it's
Hmm.
basically like kickboxers can go toe to toe with Muay Thai artists. It's just like they have a very different set of skills. Like they do a lot of like leg kicks and or
Hmm.
inside leg kicks and outside leg kicks, and they do a lot of like their striking. I think their upper striking is not as strong as the kickboxing, but they're very tough and they attack the foundation a lot. Like they have a very different like principled approach.
Yeah.
Again, I'm lucky. I could easily have ended up in a club like in a club where they were just like trying to like give you like 5 minutes of sparring every week or something like that, and then
Yeah.
just try to keep you engaged for the money. But that's not what I got, and I got lucky. So honestly, my advice is always like if you walk into like a martial arts like studio and you can't spar within like the first 2 weeks, like walk out.
Hmm. Yeah.
Like Brazilian jiu-jitsu is so good because the whole point is practice.
Hmm.
Like you're literally rolling with people all the time. All the time. Like that is you can't be it's very difficult. You can apparently you can be, but it's very difficult to be like a bullshit artist at Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu
Yeah.
because someone could just walk in and tap you. Like there's no. It's tough to get around that. And Muay Thai is a very practical martial art.
Hmm.
So
Yeah, I actually watched a martial artist like do a tier list of of like martial arts, and he just put Muay Thai in S because it's just so practical, just so good.
yeah, oh for
it's
sure.
so well rounded.
That's the thing. Like one of the things that I've actually because now I teach it. I don't just like do it anymore.
Oh shit. Okay.
One of the things that I came to understand when I was like building like lesson plans and stuff is that it doesn't make any sense to give a massive like a very wide group of techniques because these techniques like if you learn to like block a certain way or like kick or like hit somebody in a certain way it doesn't make any sense to have like 5,000 ways to hit somebody because there's only so far that you can ever develop on any one of those things. It's very much like a build order in StarCraft. Like it's having having like 5,000 builds and having only done each one of them twice. I mean, it's the classic Bruce Lee thing, right? I fear the guy who has done like one kick 1,000 times. I completely agree with that because that person, if they've done a kick 1,000 times, it's not just that they've thrown it like physically, but if they're sparring, they've thrown it against many different many different situations. So they know like if you encounter them on the street and you approach them in a certain angle or a certain way or with a certain amount of malice, like they've seen that, like, and so they're less likely to miss. They're less likely to fuck up. They're more likely to transition properly.
Yeah.
Like, it's really, I think martial arts is like swimming lessons. Like, you need to learn it because one day somebody might threaten you and you are just shit out of luck with what you have on hand and who's around. Like, you know, people try to say like, I'll just have a gun. Like, well, no, you won't. Like, if you're Canadian, you won't.
Yeah.
What if, or like, what if you get caught? Like, what if you keep a gun in the glove compartment and you get caught in a building? Like, shit happens anywhere, man. Like, this isn't you're not preparing for good days. That's the one thing you have to remember when it comes to training martial arts. Like, I don't do actually at this point I don't do it anymore because I want to. I do it because I genuinely believe that I need to keep those skills sharp. Like, it just in case. Like a seatbelt for life.
Oh yeah, for sure. You mentioned also like that just getting like the reason why sparring is so important because it's just I think you mentioned with Nice Here's the Name that like just getting hit is just an eye-opening experience and it just changes your perspective on like anything physical that you see because a lot of people are indifferent but that's probably because they've never been in a situation where like you get hit so they just have like no idea they're almost like more indifferent.
Dude, the thing. Okay, sorry. Continue.
I was just gonna say real quick, like transitioning from like that statement, like being an eye opener that sparring gives you and like getting hit and stuff. Do you think it's something that should be like almost like mandatory in like schools where like having like not karate but just martial arts in general for like everyone for them to experience? Do you think that's something important that you should probably go through in your life?
I have two competing philosophies on this. And I can never decide which I prefer. The first is that I do think everyone should train martial arts, but then I'm worried that you give martial arts to the bad people.
Yeah.
Like, and that's I always agree with that. But then you have a possibility of training. Like a lot of people who abuse their physicality are doing so because they have no discipline, and one thing you learn very quickly when you go into a good martial arts studio is that no matter how big you are, like if there's somebody who's close enough to you in size that they can still like move you, anyone with more skill is going to probably beat you, like quite badly. Like there have been guys who come into our club who are like 350 pounds. Like I'm like 205. And like it's just hilarious watching them try to hit you because they can't. They don't know how, and they've never been hit before, and they've been intimidating their whole life. Like everyone has been afraid of them, physically, their entire existence, and then they walk in, and a dude who's 150 pounds under them is like basically made of gas. Like he couldn't hit him even if he wanted to. It's
just outplaying
it's a completely impossible conundrum for them.
Mm-hmm.
On the other hand, like if you give that guy now, if I train him well enough and I give him the tools, I probably couldn't stop him if he's that much heavier than me.
Mm.
So like, I've created something that I can't. There's nothing you could do about. But I guess you really end up in this weird spot. But yeah, I mean, getting hit is a massive part. Like most people say things about violence and they don't know what the fuck they're talking about.
Yeah.
Because they've never been hit in their life by somebody who could actually kill them. And that's not like a grandiose statement. Like if you walk into like a Muay Thai club or a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu club, like those people could put you on the floor and actually kill you with their bare hands. And there's a realization that comes with that I had when I went for the first time, that there are people, like, you walk around as a kid thinking that you're like hot shit because no one has ever laid hands on you like in a serious fashion. Mm-hmm. And then you walk in there and you realize there's people who could do it and yawn when they're done. Like, yeah. You know, like they're just bored. And for me, that was such a mind-boggling experience to just, I signed up I signed up the next day because I was like, holy shit, there are people out there that could just embarrass me in such a crazy way. Like, it doesn't matter how strong I am, how much I go to the gym, how much I lift. This guy who's 150 pounds, right, and my height could actually just demolish me, and there's nothing I could do about it. Zero.
Yeah.
I could watch him and high five him. That's it.
Yeah. That's why it's important that, like, if you're really good at martial arts, like, you got to be like a good like person. Like that there's a reason why they consider black belts like a weapon, right? Because you can literally take out
the one
people.
thing I tell people is that, like, at some point in your journey as a martial artist, you start being the one with the control. Mm-hmm. Like when you're in a bad situation, like it's not just about being able to hurt somebody. It's actually about being able to not hurt somebody.
Yeah. Because
I think that's even scarier. Like if you're that 350-pound guy I was talking about, like if you're a big guy, like you can hurt somebody more badly than you want to. Like you can actually damage a human way more than you ever intended. And that's, to me, I think that's very frightening, right? You could be trying to restrain somebody and really hurt them, like more than you intended. And so when you learn to be a martial artist, like when you learn combat in general, now you have a lot more control, right? You have the ability to de-escalate situations better than you would have before because you have the training, right? And it's about taking responsibility for that, and accepting that that's true, that you have the ability, and that not just to throw it around wildly. Like a well-trained human being is going to win 99.999% of times against somebody who isn't. Luck does play somewhat of a factor. Mm-hmm. So that being stated, like, now you have to consider that, like, you have to consider that when you're in a confrontation. Like, the person across from you actually really doesn't have a chance. They have a very minuscule chance, and they're probably just making a really stupid mistake. You know? Yeah. Like, what comes to mind is, like, if you get in a kerfuffle at, like, a bar or something, like, do you really want to end this guy's career?
Or do you just
like,
want to,
because he's an idiot and he's
things, right?
drunk doing something stupid? Or, like, you have a choice. You have the choice, so you can choose to make it. But if you're an untrained person, you don't have a choice. You're gonna just do whatever your body says is what you have to do to defend yourself.
Yeah, I feel like martial arts, especially like in Asia, is like it goes hand in hand with like teaching philosophy and like how to actually use it, and the fact that it's only defense,
I mean, it's so funny, like I mean, Spider-Man nailed it, right? With great power comes great responsibility.
Yeah, I was trying so hard not to say that, dude.
I mean, it's true. Like it's something that, I mean, is obviously super overblown for a dude who can swing from buildings, but you don't have to go that far. Like, all you have to do is know how to control your own body, because most people are detached from their body. They don't understand how it works. Like, they don't know how to wield it like a weapon. right? They don't know how to recover from being hit. They go crazy if they get hit. They shut down if they get hit.
Yeah.
Like I see people just turtle up all the time. It's like a habit you have to break over years sometimes, depending on the person.
Yeah.
Right. So.
Yeah. I had a weird kind of experience. I was at I think we were at a meltdown bar during a StarCraft tournament, and I think the owner of the bar put it was a Saturday night, so they put the UFC on the TVs. And one of my StarCraft friends, he was kind of looking at that, and it was like the end of like the third round or something like that, and there was blood quite a bit, and he was just like, he says like, oh dude, I hate watching that shit, it's like so violent. And I kind of had the thought like, is it actually violent though? I feel like violence, to me, the philosophy of violence is like when you're fighting someone because you're different to them, whereas like in UFC you're fighting because you're the same, but you want to like show that you've dedicated, like that you have like more skill. It's like the UFC with blood is just as violent as a tennis match or a StarCraft match or like a speedrun competition.
I think you guys mean the same thing, but the syntax is different here. Like, violence for him is a physical thing.
It's a physical thing, yeah.
Where people are, but it is violent. Like, it's violent until like the sportsmanship comes in at the end. Because I remember, thinking about, like, when I was probably 22. So I've been training for 4 years or whatever, or maybe I was 21, and I thought about it. Like, I was like, maybe I'll go to a more serious gym, and then we'll see what I can do there. I remember my wife, she was my girlfriend at the time. I remember my wife being like, no. I was like, I understood that no. Like, if you actually go and compete or try to compete, like, I don't know if we're going to be okay. Like, I don't know if I could watch you do that type of thing. So I was like,
you're
okay,
going to get hurt.
No.
Right.
But I remember another part of the reason why was that I remember watching a UFC fight, and this guy was he was like he was in mount, and he was on top. He was punching the other guy's head, and they had a slow-mo of the dude on the bottom. His head ricocheted off the mat, and then as it was coming up like a ping pong ball, he'd just get punched in the face again.
Yeah.
And then the head would go back down and hit the mat and then come up again. Like, the guy was... And I was like, I couldn't do that to someone. Like, unless this person had instilled me to want to kill them, I could not punch somebody's head, like, over and over and over until the ref told me I had to stop like that. Like, this guy's clearly fucking done, and he can't do anything. Like, I think we should probably just stop punching him in the face. But I understand because the way that they operate is that, like, when the ref calls it, it's over.
Yeah.
Until that moment, that other guy could get up and still have a comeback, because adrenaline is a fucking crazy thing.
Oh yeah.
So I understand, like, but that there is a level of, like, violence to it. Like, it's not just like another sport, because
it's not like just a respectable kind of match. It's like during the match you kind of have to like channel that violence if you want to actually be able to win.
Don't tell me Mike Tyson wasn't violent. Like, you can't.
Yeah,
when he was boxing, the fucking guy was violent. Like, look at the way he punched people, man.
Yeah,
he punched them into another dimension. Like, it wasn't. You can't look at. Like, some people definitely. They definitely fight differently, but that's. Like, could you call Floyd Mayweather violent? Probably not.
I mean,
He's
that's just like
strategical fighter.
Yeah, I mean, that's like the style. Do you have like a violent style? Like, do you think martial arts competition or like UFC or boxing, just as a concept, not as the people involved? Do you think the concept of that is violent, or is it just like the people fighting in it that have to be violent during the match?
I think the thing is that it's like having like lightning in a bottle type deal. Like, you're trying to control a very dangerous thing, but like, some people want to walk that line, man. Like, I'm not gonna stop people from doing that. Like, that's what they want to do. They want to walk the line where they're exerting they're kind of pushing martial arts in the most competitive way. And really, that's how martial arts is developed. Right? Like, you can only have sparring sessions for so long, because the real thing, like, the reason sparring is so effective is because my 60-70% sparring with good people is like almost full speed like fighting for most people.
Mm-hmm.
Because reflex and training, like, I'm just faster in those ways. I've just practiced. But like when you fight somebody who's also a fighter, now that those things are different, right? Like, if I were to fight someone else who's trained and they had a lot of battle tested experience, I have to concede I would be at a serious disadvantage, because the pace of the thing is so much different. Like, the way that martial arts are truly tested is when the fight is real, because the things that hold up can't always be when you're at an advantage, right?
Yeah.
I could do some crazy, like, spinning heel kick shit that like works against 99% of people because they've never fought before. But if I fight another guy who's fought before, now maybe I get smoked because my timing is very predictable and he just destroys me. Right? He just times me out and then comes back in. So at the end of the day, like, it's also about pushing the arts themselves forward, because you can't just spar forever. Like, you can't just run these simulations of fighting. Eventually you have to fight. If you don't, then you don't know if that shit really works against someone else who knows what they're doing.
I remember, like, you said, like, the thing you'd hate the most is if someone would just, like, walk up to you in a dream hack and go like, oh, you do kung fu, you want to 1v1 me, bro?
Yeah,
like that's like the thing that I think no martial artist wants to have, honestly, happen, because it's so not what he used for. I mean, a lot of times it's such a we just turn everything into a competition, right? That's just kind of not where it's supposed to be.
The martial artist being approached is at a serious disadvantage in that, like, they may definitely be a better fighter, but like they don't want anything to do like with that situation. Yeah. Like, what do they do there? Like, they're at a situational disadvantage. Like, they've been put out. Like, do you look like the asshole who is like super good and fought anyway, or are you the like incompetent martial artist who's just running around like saying he could do something but can't?
Yeah.
You know, I think it's everybody's fear. And I think the real fear for me is that I don't want to hurt anybody. Like, even if like, I always accept that maybe there's a possibility that I think my abilities are higher than they are, which is very possible and maybe even likely. But assuming that I'm not wrong, I don't want to hurt anybody. Like, I train for a long time to make sure that I don't hurt anybody and then no one gets hurt. Right? That's like the whole point, is that you train people so that they don't get hurt either.
Yeah. I mean, that's how you know, like, that you've been, like, taught correctly. Because, like, if we had not taught, like the concept of, like, this is used to not get hurt, then maybe those kids that, we taught in schools, like, become not bullies, but, start to use it as a weapon. I guess, like, it's a pretty good metric to know if a martial artist is good, as if he doesn't want to fight, I guess. For sure.
Yeah. It picks his battles, right? Like, I think people can only go so far before they are like, all right, fuck it. You know what? Fine. But then there's, you really just don't. I don't know. Fighting is a very dangerous thing, man.
Yeah,
and
for sure. There's a lot of ethics.
I wouldn't want to get into one too frequently.
Oh no, I would hope not. I really hope not. So we'll get to StarCraft, I promise. But you talked about, like, there were 3 things in about streaming that, like, constituted, like, a really successful stream. It was, like, talent, luck, and work ethic. These are quotes. Work ethic being split into hours streamed and quality of stream. And you thought maybe you can just, like, max out the quality tree and then you wouldn't have to worry about luck or talent or anything. But then, like, you said there was a quote from Death that was like, if nobody watches your shit, you're screwed. That was your quote, or his quote, which kind of showed you, like, personality is actually more important than tech. And, like, you can see it with like Parting. He has a $30 webcam, and that he also uses that as a microphone, and he's, like, super, super popular. But, like, when you realize that personality was so important, you still, like, somehow you know, you still like stayed an absolute like tech nerd, like whether it be keyboards, mice, microphones, or like audio interfaces. What and you would literally answer anyone on Twitter, like no matter who they are, like about tech questions. Did you kind of always have a passion for tech, or did just the pursuit of the ultimate stream quality like unlock this passion with you?
I've always liked tech. I mean, that's what I've always liked, tinkering with stuff, and that's kind of why I did the keyboard thing. I did the keyboard thing because it's basically there was like I wanted to build a thing, and like the keyboard craze hit just at the right time, and so yeah, now I do that all the time. But I guess I don't know, like when it comes to the stream like helping people out is its own thing. Like it just so happens that the quality of people's streams is like some of them are really low, and they want to work on it, and I have the knowledge. And if it were some other topic, then I might help in a different way. But it's sort of separate from the tech thing. Tech is just what I'm interested in, I guess. I've been that way for my entire life, like ever since I was a kid. Just I don't know why. I guess my dad was into that kind of stuff too. And so
yeah,
now I am, but the stream quality thing, I still believe that. I do believe that you really do need like a top tier stream, especially now. Now that like half the StarCraft streams all look good. Parting is an enigma, but I actually genuinely think that if he was not as good as he is, I don't think he would have made it anywhere near what he did.
Yeah.
Because like the only reason that part of his shtick is that he's so fucking good, you know, despite the terrible quality of his stream.
Yeah, I read a book by Maximus Black. He talked like there's three types of streamers. There's ones with really high skill. Those tend to be generally, even if they're like really good, like 6K plus. It's like if it's just skill, they'll like stay in those 20 viewer range. And then you've got those with personality, but not necessarily much skill. Well, I mean that's debatable, but whatever. Those can go up, you know, a couple hundred viewers. But then you've got the ones that are pros and have personalities, and those ones are like absolute like bangers. That's basically what Parting happened, right? Because he's super high skilled and he has the like one of the craziest personalities in the scene, right? So yeah, I feel like that's pretty much just what happened with him. But yeah, I mean, I do have to say, like, when I found your stream, to this day, I think you have the easiest stream to watch and listen to. Like, the sound balance is perfect between the keyboard, the voice, the game music. Like, your EQ is excellent. Like, your personality is super chill. So, like, props, honestly. And, like, one of your cameras is what, like, $2,500? You mentioned yesterday you had, like, an A6600. I was I just typed that into Google. I was like, what did this guy get? $2,500? What the fuck, dude?
Yes, I have an A6300 and an A6000. So, but I got the A6000 used for $390. But when I bought the A6300, it was $1,200 for the body, and the lens is about $700. So like, yeah, it's actually it's pretty expensive. And then the lens on the A6000 is the zoom lens, and that's like $800.
Yeah, that's as I said, like Parting has a $30 webcam, I'm pretty sure, but
yeah, but that's like I also bought this shit because the stuff I'm interested in streaming as well, like doing the keyboard streams and stuff. Like you couldn't pull that off with a webcam if you wanted to.
Oh yeah.
Like how are you gonna see the soldering? Like how are you gonna see any of this stuff? Like I bought this kind of stuff for future stuff because you know that I've been working on the apartment and built the studio and everything, and that's like a year and a half. So, I really do feel like ever since that interview, actually, like ever since that year where I started working on this shit, I've like phoned it in super hard on my stream, to be honest. Like, because I haven't been pushing anything. Like, I've been showing up to stream, but not doing more because I've been working on building a place to live and building a studio to work from. So like now that I'm free from those things, I have to step shit up like super hard. But outside of that, yeah, that's kind of where I've got hung up on. And I don't know, the whole thing on categorizing streamers, I think is becoming like super like for much further from the truth as time passes, and and Twitch sort of like Twitch viewers figure this shit out. Like, it should be a major tell that things are gonna change. That the number one way that it's recommended to grow your Twitch is by creating a YouTube channel.
Yeah.
Like, because there's no discoverability on this website. And that's something I didn't really factor in at the time, and I don't think anyone really factored in. Like, YouTube is absolutely the best way. Like, it takes a lot of work, and it takes, like, you need, like, an editor, or you need to spend the time doing it yourself. But I really actually I think that content creation is its own thing aside from streaming and playing. So, like, the best content creators will. I agree with Devin Nash on this topic. I disagree with Devin Nash on a lot of things, but I agree on the idea that good content rises to the top, and like what that is very much up to the viewer and the creator. But yeah, the classic tropes have held for a long time though. Like, players tend to do reasonably well, personalities tend to do reasonably well, and then player personalities tend to do the best. But that's not completely true. Like, Vibe is like not really a player personality. Like, he's not competing, but he still has like one of the fastest growing streams. I think his stream is growing quite well.
Yeah.
Like, same with, I guess Pig used to be a professional. And like what the state of people that are getting bigger in StarCraft 2 aren't really the players. Like,
yeah,
they're
the content creators, really, because both of them do a lot of YouTube creators. Stuff. Yeah.
Correct. Yeah. Like, I was having this conversation with Harston, like, and Devin Nash said this on when he was talking to Artosis as well. Like, you can expect eventually that 40% of your viewership will have come from YouTube. Like, 40%. So if I start a YouTube channel like 2 years from now, 40% of my viewership will come from there, which is insane to think about. Right? Like, all this time spent on Twitch, and like that's what ends up doing it. Well, and that has absolutely nothing to do with how good I am at anything. Right? As far as StarCraft is concerned.
Yeah. I feel like you just need to use every tool at your disposal except Twitch. Sure. Like, Twitch is the only thing like you can use Reddit, Twitter, and like YouTube and stuff like that.
I think for discovery, yeah, but Twitch definitely has like the best live streaming platform.
For platform? Yeah.
Like, I think that even if you are putting everything on YouTube, streaming it on Twitch is the best idea because the viewers get the best experience, and I am all about the experience.
Yeah, because it's the live experience, right? You get to experience the chat. That's a huge part, right?
In my opinion, if you're a live streamer, that's the biggest part.
Oh yeah, for sure. I'm gonna go on the StarCraft. I'm just gonna say something, and I just want it for you to sit with it for a second. All right. So, SC20. All right, stop. Yeah. What did you think about first when I said that?
Oh man.
It's probably a lot of flashes there. It's pretty hard.
I don't know. It's been a long time since
I
thought about it.
Yeah, it has been.
God. Man, that event was a fucking blur. The first day I didn't sleep because I was too nervous. So like, I don't remember any of that day.
Where was it actually?
That was in San Fran. That was some random like warehouse thing that they got. They made it look pretty good though.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. It's been like, I was so starstruck by that fucking event. That like it's just a daze. Like, I'd never met Artosis.
There was just everyone. There was like Artosis, Diceless.
Idra was there, which was like the most fucking crazy shit because I thought I'd never get the chance. Like, I thought that I'd never have the chance to meet that guy.
Yeah.
But he's a super interesting guy. Really nice dude. Like,
I bet.
Yeah, it's amazing. It just solidified for me that, like, Persona is just that.
Oh yeah.
Like, it's not like, he's such a nice guy.
Yeah. My favorite memory of you is actually when I saw you play versus Whiterun, because like.
I actually that's like, if I had to think about it for a while.
Yeah.
The Whiterun games, like, my favorite thing was that Dan said that was the best. Those were the best games of the tournament. It wasn't really a tournament, but like. I felt that I had achieved something
Yeah.
with my life.
And it was just it was such an amazing memory for me because like I was watching you and you were like probably the only streamer there because it was like old pros. It was old pros and streamers, and you were there.
Livy
and
was there. Yeah,
Libby was there as well. And I remember like you were the only streamer that I really really followed, and I was like, oh my god, Sal's gonna play Whiterun, which was like basically a legendary, iconic player in like the history of StarCraft as a whole. And then you played him, and they happened to be like the best games of the tournament. And then Dan said that as well. And then that was just like probably one of my favorite memories of you for sure. Like, did you actually like talk to Whiterun afterwards? Did you meet him and like?
Yeah.
Because I have never met Whiterun. What is he like? What is your Whiterun story?
I mean, he's such a competitive shit. Like, I love him. Like, he's such a nice guy. But like, when we were at the bar later, and he was like, I could tell. Like, I thought for some reason that those games were like, because he doesn't really playing anymore. That those games really didn't sit on his mind at all. But he was like, oh, I should have done this, and this. And I was like, holy shit! Like, you're still thinking about the shit that went wrong.
Yeah.
I was like, in my head, I was like, bro, you couldn't win. Like, you haven't played in ages, and the builds I have like put you 20 probes down. Like, you had no chance.
Yes.
Like, I mean, like, I had super good builds at the time. I just remember that. I remember being like, okay, so I have 3 builds in TVP at the moment, and like every one of them, if he doesn't know what he's doing, is gonna put him like 15 probes behind, and I should be good. And that's exactly what happened.
Did you actually like?
First game was close.
I was gonna say, did you actually like practice like builds for the tournament? Were you like, I don't want to look bad at this tournament, or?
I just knew them for whatever reason. Maybe they were like beyond built or something.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, I was practicing at the time for like whatever reason, and I was trying. Actually, I think that was when I hit like 5300 or something, like right before that, and so I was actually doing like pretty well. Yeah, I don't remember why I fell off. Like every time I've fallen off in skill, something has happened. I don't remember what it was then that I just like face planted into oblivion. But I do remember that I was actually playing quite well prior to that.
So so you talked to Whiterun afterwards, like, hey dude, how's it going? And he was just kind of like, dude, should have done this in the game.
Yeah. But in like a very like self-reflective way.
Yeah.
Like he's just a competitive guy. Like it was just a testament that these guys are all super competitive. Like they can't just, it's not just like a thing that they did when they were younger kind of deal. It's just in their DNA.
It's like in their it's just who they are kind of, and it's probably why they are pros, right? That's probably why they became pros, because they it's just always on their mind. It's like, well, I could have done this and stuff like that. Speaking of like meeting people, I wanted to like kind of share actually how I even found your stream in the first place. I remember the first time I faced you on ladder, I didn't even know you were a streamer. I just noticed the clan was Psystorm, like written on the name, and I think this was at my first ever LAN ETS, but I got demolished at my first LAN ETS by this guy called Psystorm NYK, which I did a podcast with, and I did number 13 with him, but at first, like, I didn't recognize like your name from anywhere because there was other Psystorm pros, like there was like Gumiho, Suppy, Jon Snow, Xanster, and I was like, okay, well maybe this guy's a streamer then. So I head on over to Twitch and I just type in UpATreeZelda and I find you immediately, and then I go in the VOD and like surely enough, it's like yeah, you were the one I faced. Okay, cool. And I remember it was on Proxima Station. And so I do this weird opening that I made up that somehow ended up with like a double cyclone drop at the back of your natural. And I remember you saying something along the lines of like, okay, I don't know what the fuck this guy's doing, but I respect it. And I remember the I respect it so crystal clear. I was like, oh my God, streamer respects the build I made up. I was like, so cool. And I just started kind of watching ever since. And I guess,
it's like the same respect I have for Ruff. Like, I think that what Ruff, like the game, some of the shit that Ruff does is like the dumbest shit. Like I couldn't come up with it. But like it's the fact that I couldn't come up with it that makes it so impressive, because he just does like pretty well. It's like, so I have an innate respect for people who can play the game at a high level, different than everyone else, and still manage to pull it off even after like you've died games and games and games to it too. Like, So yeah, of course, like when you get something like that.
Yeah.
I do not remember that game, but I could understand why I would feel that way. Double cyclone drop was not a thing.
Oh yeah, no. It was some like because normally there was a time where it was like the rapid fire cyclone, so you'd open with one.
Oh
But
yeah.
what I would do is I
yeah.
would open with one, and then I would make another one, and then off the back of the first pressure, I would just load the two together and like go to the natural. I don't remember what I did. I know it was weird, but I did something along those lines.
Yeah.
Anyway, so like I found your stream like from there, and you were still a nighttime streamer at the time, so it was really nice because I could just open your stream and just leave it on like my computer as I went to sleep because it was just very, very chill. It wasn't a loud thing. Like I can't put parting stream obviously because you just never know when he's gonna scream, right? It's like Jesus.
Yeah.
So yeah, and so like fast forward, I think a year or two, and I learned that you were gonna go to DreamHack Montreal. I think this was 2017 or 2018. And I was like, okay, I gotta find Sal. I have no idea how. We're at the huge fucking Olympic Stadium. How the hell do I find one person in here? So I was like, what if Sal finds me? Right, so I was like, I'm gonna make a Sal W sign, and I'm gonna show it on stream, and then, funnily enough, I think right after I showed it to the cameras in front of like 12,000 people. First of all, people started spamming Sal W's in chat. I remember the VOD, and then I right after that I like look up. I think you were like in the bleachers, but like way farther up, and I somehow spotted you from like really far. And then I came up to you and I was like, I made you sign
Probably
it.
because I was laughing hysterically.
Oh yeah.
Oh my god.
I wish that was recorded, but I was like, yeah, because I'm sure you had no fucking idea. That must have been totally out of left field.
It was.
So yeah,
100%.
I was like, maybe I can find him. Maybe I can get his attention with this. Then eventually I find you. I get it signed, and yeah, I mean that first event I was just kind of like starstruck in a way because I've never really met streamers before then. It was basically the same experience as like you going to SE20. And then after being starstruck, like the next year, I think it's 2018 now, and it's DreamHack Montreal again, and I find your booth, but this time I'm not starstruck. So I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna ask this guy a couple questions and just for the conversation, and hopefully we can kind of lightly talk about those. Hopefully that's fine. But like one of the things that I asked was like, if you could write a book or have like a music album, like what would you do? And you told me like music would be really, really cool. And you know, like chill beats has kind of been a staple for your brand for like a really long time. Obviously, like one of the greatest discoveries ever was the Zelda and Chill album, which was insane.
Oh yeah.
And do you feel like music
I'm so grateful for whoever gave that.
Oh
to me.
yeah.
Anyway,
dude.
continue.
I was gonna say like, is music something you feel is like really strongly tied to your kind of like identity as a streamer, or is it just something that just generally embellishes your stream?
I mean, I think it's just tied to me as a person. Like I've been an avid music listener for a long time. Like and it's weird to say, but I know people who just don't listen to music. But that's where that like I definitely I have music on all the time, like all the time. Like Spotify basically is like I use the shit out of my Spotify account. Like they probably lose money on me. It's been a part of my identity for a long time. Like on stream, I will not play music I would not listen to. Like even the Chill Hop discography, like the songs I don't like, I remove. And the stream playlist that I have is being curated. So like every song in there is one that I thought was good and would want to listen to. And there's thousands. What are we at now? Here, I'll tell you. We are at 2,188 songs.
Oh my god.
That is 124 hours, 13 minutes worth of listening. Yeah. How many followers does it have now? 146.
Ooh. Nice.
Yeah. So, yeah, this playlist is very carefully curated. Like if the song, there's like a sound. Like if the song sounds like that has a particular sound, like I'll remove it. Like I won't even skip it. It just goes. Like I don't know. I'm just very particular in that way, and I've always kind of wanted to get into it, but that's a whole skill. I already have to learn video editing to do the stupid vlog thing.
Yeah.
But
and then there's like music editing and everything like that.
Yeah.
But like let's say you were with the team, like as a general question, would you ever like see yourself undertaking a UpATree music album one day, like in your lifespan? Is it something that you think would happen? Like, could you envision that actually happening?
I mean, yeah, later though. Like,
Yeah,
not
much
now.
later. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I don't remember I think Joey asked you like how long do you plan on streaming? I don't quite remember what your answer was, but like maybe like at
I don't have
not
cutoff
after
date,
streaming,
yeah.
because that's a dumb statement, but like yeah, is it something that you'd actually probably like see yourself doing one day? I just wonder,
Yeah,
maybe.
unless something makes me stop.
Mhm.
Like, I think the medium will change, for sure.
Mhm.
I don't think Twitch will be dominant forever. I think if they keep trying to do stuff like the mid-roll ads, like I don't think they should be the biggest forever either. And I don't really care, to be honest. I like what I do for its own sake, and so I'll continue to do it until I can't, and then I'll try.
Yeah.
Like I'll try to. I'm very interested in keeping like what I do authentic, in that I actually want to do it, and that I'm never pressured into doing a thing because it like sells well or it will make me money or whatever.
Yeah.
Because I think viewers see right through that, and honestly, like, I couldn't really be bothered. Like, I just feel like it's a shitty way to live life. Obviously, some people don't have the choice, but as long as I can leverage mine, I'll always try to do things that I would prefer to do. So, like, for example, like, I need to make YouTube content. I want to be a better StarCraft 2 player. And so my solution to do this was to create a vlog where I, like, kind of keep track of that journey. Even if it's just for me, basically, because it's, like, forces me to be accountable for such a thing. And not actually stop doing it. It also allows me to create YouTube content. So, like, sometimes you have to make compromises in what you make in order to get other things that you want.
100%.
And that's one of
I was gonna say there's a Day9 quote that said if you want to get good or successful at something, there's things that you want to do, and then there's things that you have to do, and like
Correct.
you can't like go over the things that you have to do. Like if you want to be like a good musician, if you want to do something good, you have to sometimes go through steps that maybe you don't want to do, but you need to do. Yeah.
Agreed.
100%, yeah.
No, that's very true, and it's always important to remember, like, engineering anything. Like, this is one thing I learned in undergrad. I think this is very important. It was really drilled into us by profs. Like, engineering is a balance of trade-offs. Like, it always is a balance of trade-offs. You can't have a thing be infinitely small, produce infinite amounts of heat, and be infinitely fast. It doesn't work.
Yeah.
Right? Like, there are laws dictating these things. Like, and I learned that sometimes you just have to make trade-offs in all things, and you always do, I guess, even if it's just the trade-off of your time. So if you want to be good at something, you have to make the trade-offs. Like, how worth it is it to you to make sacrifices, and what exactly are you going to do that?
Yeah. So real quick, just like a yes or no question, because like I think this next question might lead into it, but you said you wanted to do like vlogs. Is that like to track your journey of like your progression in StarCraft, or?
Yeah, like, yeah. I mean, I'm not like I literally, like, this week has been an interesting journey because I basically bought some stuff to like take my camera around with me. My 6300, its only like flaw is that the generation that it was in doesn't have a flip up camera or flip out camera. It's like just there in the back. So I had to buy like a little monitor, and I have this little mic attached to it. I had to buy the cage and everything. I have all this shit now. But so basically I'm just vlogging like what I kind of do in a week, and like vlogging my practice, because I'm like doing dedicated practice now. I'm basically just trying to do the things that I need to do to improve to be a StarCraft 2 player that you just can't do on stream or laddering.
Yeah.
And then I want to actually see if it works, like if I become better.
Yeah, I guess that kind of leads into my next question. So like the second thing that we talked about was I told you I was gonna ask Sarah if I could talk to him, like Sarah, who was the best player in 2018, like, by miles, except maybe Maru, but that's
he's
not
still the best player.
Let's not get into that debate, but
he's still the best player.
Yeah, I wanted to ask him, like, what do you strive for beyond being number one in the world? Like when you are the number one in the world, and like where does that motivation come from? And you told me something along the lines of like, I think at this point he just enjoys the game, and just like what lies beyond being the best is just being able to like enjoy what you do, which is kind of a pretty profound statement. But I feel like you kind of adopted that thinking as well.
Well, I mean, the statement came from my own experience.
Yeah. And like, I'm not sure if you're still like this, but like, I remember you said on Joey's show you got kind of triggered when someone said, "Do you think you've peaked in StarCraft?"
Oh,
and now it's like I feel like with your now you have like a very solid community of longtime viewers, that are friends. You've built your own like studio. You're happily married. You got a stream sell that's literally like one of the best in business. Like what's not to enjoy? Like who gives a fuck if you don't get like 6K MMR? Like am I wrong in thinking that, or
I do.
Yeah, I was like, am I wrong in thinking that?
And my opinion is the only fucking one that matters on the topic. Like, if I didn't give a shit about being good at the game, and you told me that I was like shit, I wouldn't care. But that's not the case. I do give a fuck.
Yeah.
And that's why it hurts. Like, it hurts to be bad, and I hate it with a passion.
Oh, you still you still hate it. Like,
of course.
Yeah, I mean, like, you seem like such a like a very like happy with like your.
I'm a happy guy in my life, but like you got to remember how long Artosis has been playing StarCraft 2, like 22 years. It's not something you pursue because you're ready to be happy and content with your life. Like, StarCraft 2 is a difficult task that people undertake to be great at something. Like, it's not just like a video game that you play for fun. Like, and I understand that might seem counterintuitive because it's a video game. Like, the pursuit of greatness goes beyond the activity. Sometimes in order to be great, you have to, like, in order to enjoy a thing, you have to try to ascend what you were before, even if it's not fun to get there, because practice is never fun. Grinding build orders for 3 hours is not fun. It's not fun for the best players. It's not fun for the worst players. It's just not fun, period. But if you want to ascend your position in a game, then you need to. Yeah,
because like you're already a good streamer, and you still keep improving on that like continuously, whether it be tech or personality or content or whatever. But I was like thinking like maybe. Do you need to become better at StarCraft? Maybe not for the viewers, but maybe for yourself, I guess.
No, for myself.
Yeah,
100%.
For yourself, yeah.
Yeah, but that's why the vlog thing came from that. Like, the idea that I needed to do something that forced me to not give up on it this time, because I had more riding on it than just practice. Like, now I have content on it as well. I needed to be able to justify it from more than one perspective, because I don't think, like, every time I need to practice but something else would come up, I would do that because I have other responsibilities. But now I would lose a lot to not practice. Like, I'd lose more. So I just increased the weight on it, and we'll see if that works out instead. I mean, honestly, it doesn't seem like that much work, but not yet. But it probably will, like, turn into it, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, I gotcha.
We'll see. It's a brand new thing, first week, so.
Hopefully it works out. I think once you start like documenting progress, it's like going to the gym, right? A lot of people say like you should document your progress at the gym so that it motivates you to even push further, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, you need to in order to schedule, like, lifting is a function of what you've accomplished and what you want to accomplish, really. Yeah. Like, you're always trying to. You need to know what you can lift and what you have lifted in order to know what to try to lift this week to make progress. Otherwise, you get stuck or you overexert yourself and get injured.
Yeah, exactly. And we're gonna get close to wrapping up very soon. I have two final questions, I guess. The last one the last question I kind of asked you, and I just had to ask the savior of love this, but like. The question was like, how do you know when someone is the one, like marriage wise?
And
And I remember you saying to me, and I actually said this to I said your answer to a coworker at like the restaurant I worked at, and like, granted, he was like a pretty sensitive guy, but when I told him your answer, he legit cried. But
this is true.
it was something along the lines of like,
I can tell you exactly what it was.
Oh, you
want
can
me to
go
tell
for
you?
it. Yeah,
I know it word for word.
And
yeah.
also, the question after that was basically like, would you add anything to that statement, which you're about to say, like no, 2 or 3 years later?
I said my answer to you was that you need, like, you should find someone that one lifetime isn't enough.
Yes.
And I stand by that.
Yeah.
And it doesn't really, like, you'll know the feeling when you get it, and that's it.
Yeah.
Like, it's one of those unqualifiable things that you can't. It's like when you ask me about, what makes your relationship with Jason so good. It's a friend. Like, it's a thing that you can't. It's like when a good story comes to a close, you're both satisfied and kind of unhappy or sad that it's over. Right? Like a good story, you always want it to continue, but it ends. It's the same kind of feeling. Like, you want more time, but you can't have it.
Yeah, exactly. It was basically like
that was, and I remember that, like, I remember that more clearly than I remember anything else, like, that we've ever talked about, because I really, like, I had been thinking about that before for some random reason. I don't know why. And I was like trying to put my thoughts into words there, because I feel like it's actually, everyone knows that, like, everyone kind of knows what they want to say when someone asks them, like, what they think, like, love is or whatever. But the words suck. Like, they always suck.
Yeah, exactly.
Even that, like, one lifetime isn't enough is, like, kind of such a weird thing to say. Like, what does that mean? Like, how does that feel?
It's to describe the indescribable, really. It's like one lifetime isn't enough time to appreciate everything that the other person has to offer, in a way.
You remember?
But it's like, how do you describe
that?
You
know the song "Confessions"? Is it "Confessions" by the Dashboard Lights or whatever it is? Where the oh God, what is it?
Nope.
Hold on. I can tell you the opposite of it.
Wait, the opposite?
Confessions by the Dashboard Light. Yeah, it's a song by Meatloaf, or Paradise by the Dashboard Light. So basically, this guy and chick are getting, like, hot and heavy in a truck or in a car or something, and they're like, it goes through the whole experience of, like, she's trying to get him to say that he loves her, and he's trying to be like he's trying not to admit it, like, because he doesn't, but he wants to get laid. So he's trying, and then in the end, like, he's just so sexually frustrated, he says it, and now he's like, and I'm just waiting for the end of time, because they got married and stuff, because she got pregnant.
Oh.
So, like,
yeah, that's the opposite. Yeah.
And so that's the opposite feeling, where, like, you wish that it could end, like, and the opposing is that you wish that it would just never end. Like, and so I guess that guy kind of summed up what it feels like to not not actually love the person that you're with.
Instead of every second is not enough, it's every second is too much.
You wish every second would bring the end.
Yeah.
Like, that's the opposite.
Nice. Yeah, it's a pretty good metric. I haven't felt that. Hopefully I will. But
yeah, I mean, it's just a matter. And it's not just a matter of time. It's a matter of whether or not you can get outside.
True.
Yeah.
And kind of the final question of the podcast, really. You've always talked about streaming never really being difficult, or never feeling like really a chore, or like struggle for motivation. Is there any reason, like, why do you think that is? Like, is there something outside of streaming that just helps counterbalance it all so well?
No, like, I actually thought about this a little bit recently, and I liken it to, like, how Michael Phelps probably feels as a swimmer, because he was, like, born good at it. Like, he's just good at swimming, and he enjoys doing the thing because he's just good at it. For some really weird reason, it just doesn't take a lot out of me. Like, it's not that it's not exhausting, it's not that it's not tiring, because it is, but, like, I feel like I could just do that all the time, and I don't know what it is. Like, something about having conversations, like, all day, and just playing StarCraft 2, it's not something that weighs on me. Like it doesn't. A lot of people refer to their careers in a way that's like a weight, and I've never felt that way about it, and I still don't.
What's crazy is that like even if some people feel that way after a very long period of time, like it can become exhausting. Like you could have like you can lift your arm in the air and have no weights and it would feel fine, but after like 3 minutes then it's like I mean at some point it's gotta hurt.
It's exhausting, but like exhaustion comes from no rest. Like you can only even the best athletes in the world, even the smartest people in the world, like they need to sleep. Like they need to be able to de-stress, because eventually these things, like the life takes its toll regardless of how good you are at living it. Like you're not a robot, and so you have to abide by those rules. Exhaustion tends to come from people overexerting themselves beyond their means, and that's I mean that happened to me with the apartment, where I just like I got close to the end and I just started grinding until it was done, and I just became a miserable human in the process because I just desperately wanted it to be finished. But that is what it is.
I guess it's about balance in a way. You can't just.
It is definitely about balance. Like some people, it doesn't always work out that way. Like streaming is a thing that I truly love to do, and there are things I don't, that sometimes I have to do, and that's fine. But I've learned sometimes you learn to accept a thing you don't like by finding something you like about it. You know what I mean? Like I'm not a big fan of the community management portion of streaming. Like I'm just not. I don't like it when people fight with one another. I hate that. And I don't like it when people get upset about things other people say. I didn't say it, and that bothers me. But like, sometimes you find the things to enjoy, because I like resolving those issues. Like I like to work things out with people, and that's there. So if you find the things that you can love about it, then you can get past it. Sometimes you can't, but you can find the things you like about a thing you don't like if you try.
Oh yeah,
sometimes.
Yeah, like more day 9 quotes. But I listened to the video like how to be relentlessly positive, and it's like you can always find like something that you like or something good about a situation. And like after I watched the video, I like went to go do the dishes, and I was like, I like the warmth of this water in my hands. And so you just focus on like kind of the good parts of everything. And
I think that does actually a little bit. I think it's a little naive, but it is also true in a way. Like to an extent, I guess it's like everything. Like it's a very fair approach, because it can work, and it as long as it's not like your only tactic, right?
Yeah.
Like you can't do it all the time. Some things are just too negative for you to be relentlessly positive about. And you just have to steel yourself and do it. Like it's just part of the experience. But there are other things, like exactly like what you're saying, where you can, you can bully it into being a good thing.
Yeah. And it's just, I mean, you got to like smartly surround yourself with things that actually do make you happy. Like if you see drama, you shouldn't just like dive more into more drama. It's like you should probably try to diffuse it or avoid it. But yeah. Are you still there? Did you die?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay.
I'm just thinking about.
I saw you sneezing. I was like, maybe he died.
No, I'm good. I'm just thinking about the drama thing.
Yeah. Well, maybe you shouldn't. Maybe that's the secret, dude.
Well, I mean, some drama is good, actually. I think it keeps things interesting.
Interesting. I'm sure, yeah.
I mean, you can't go through life without conflict. I mean, you could try, but I don't really think it doesn't work that well, I don't think.
Yeah.
And people love it. Like, they definitely enjoy the conflict, especially when it has nothing to do with them.
Yeah.
Like,
because then they're safe, but the world is still spicy, but they're still safe.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think especially like during these times where like we can't even go out, like the most exciting thing that happens in your day is just drama. Then I'm not sure how healthy that lifestyle is, but
it's not.
It's probably not, no.
But no, it's not.
Well, in the wise words of UpATreeZelda, I appreciate you, my dude. Thank you very much for coming on. I hope you enjoyed yourself.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah, and I hope you have if you stream later, I hope you have a good stream.
No, I will.
Yeah.
And I'm watching the Apple event, so it's gonna be a nice meme watching Apple take credit for things that they didn't make.
Excellent. I saw like a meme on Twitter. It's like, here's a brand new iPhone that you never knew you needed. Something like that.
Exactly.
Something along those lines. Yeah. Anyway, thank you so much for coming on, taking the time. Hopefully I can. Do you think I can get Jason on here? That'd be cool. I don't know if he's down to do these types of things.
Oh, he's gonna be a much harder sell than I am.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, he's yeah. I mean, but don't take it personally. He doesn't like to do anything.
Yeah.
Like he's okay with he likes to stream, but like he doesn't.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard to get him to do anything. Like you gotta have an airtight reasoning.
You got to be Artosis on the Pylon show.
Yeah. Yes. If Artosis gets whatever he wants, okay.
True,
in the StarCraft scene, that's what 22 years buys you.
Oh yeah.
That's what it.
Get whatever you want.
Yeah, you get whatever you want from the SC2 people. But that's it.
Yeah. Anyway, yeah, awesome. Well, have a good one, dude. I'll talk to you soon.
All right.
Next time. All right, see ya.
Take care.